You know, a wise man once said, if at first you don't digest, eat again. With me as always is media analyst Willow North. Willow, have you heard the great news? There's no tax on tips. It's happening. It's going to happen.
I have heard. I definitely have reservations. I think that there's probably some refining that needs to be done in order for this to help the people that need it the most. But also it is alarming that it is part of this supposed big, beautiful bill that wants to also make it harder for poor people to get food assistance and healthcare.
Well, back to the good news. I'm going to start requesting that everybody pay me because I get all 1099s. I'm not a W-2 employee anymore. I'm going to ask that my paychecks always be made out for $1 with thousands of dollars of tips. I'm going to be a tip-only paycheck from now on, and I suggest you follow suit.
There we go. That sounds like a plan.
Thank you. Now, what other good news is there out there?
An investigation by Consumer Reports revealed that grocery giant Kroger and its subsidiaries have been overcharging customers due to expired sales tags not being removed from shelves. The study involved secret shoppers across 26 stores in 14 states and found over 150 instances of incorrect pricing, leading to an average overcharge of $1.70 per affected item. Kroger disputes these findings, calling them misinformation, but Consumer Reports advises customers to keep a close eye at checkout to avoid potential overcharges.
So let me see if I'm understanding this correctly. This would be like a paper sticker that would say this is a reduced priced item. It was on sale, but then it became no longer on sale, but the tag was not removed, right?
Yes, like when you go to the grocery store and you see items on the shelves and there's like that little tag on the shelf beneath it, and it has like a sale price item. A lot of those sales only last about a week or so, and they don't always have like a date on them. If employees aren't changing these tags out in a timely manner, obviously people are then going to see the sale price, go to the register, maybe not notice that it's not the same price that they saw on the tag, and are, I guess, being overcharged by this.
I can never really tell if I'm like a grocery store power user or not. So tell me if you've ever done this where like something's on sale, but they're sold out. So you go up to the cashier and say, can I please get this on sale? And they write you a little paper rain check for the item so that you can buy it at the sale price the next week.
No, I didn't know that was a thing that you can do.
Okay, I'm setting the expectations here because in my mind, I think, regardless of whether the accusation is true or not, you should always be aware when shopping and check your receipts. Like I'm watching the screen as somebody is ringing up my order. In my experience, it's not that uncommon for a cashier to like accidentally not apply a discount at the store. Anyway, regardless of whether it's like a Kroger or an Albertsons, like they just might not scan the little hang tag on it or something. In a perfect world, yes, all the prices are accurate and properly labeled. But I think, in the meantime, while we're dealing with little plastic stickers on the shelves and stickers on the pack of chicken breasts, the people who are applying these stickers are applying hundreds of them, if not thousands of them. So I don't expect it to be perfect. And I do expect the buyer to have to pay at least a little bit of attention, even though I understand that this is going to be flagged as Kroger apologia and I'm going to be outed as a shill once again.
That may or may not have been why I decided to include this story. But I do think you have a point there. Obviously people need to be paying attention. But the thing that I think is most interesting about this, and it being like a problem for Kroger right now, is that a few months ago, we also covered a story about how supermarkets like Kroger are starting to use like digital tags that can be updated remotely. And people are worried that that is going to create surge pricing and things like that. And now they're basically, you can't win is what I'm trying to say.
Well, it's a zero-sum game and it's an exchange between efficiency and humanity. And I've now complained about that, or at least postulated on it for like 8 weeks over the course of this show's short lifespan. So I won't get into it again. But, there's always going to be a trade-off. And I accept the trade-off that something might be incorrectly discounted or not discounted because we as smart shoppers have the opportunity to get the sale price regardless. I think that there's also a type of person out there who gets a real kick out of entering the wrong SKU or doing some trickery at self-checkout to get free or heavily discounted food. But I think that over time, especially during COVID times, cameras and anti-theft systems got installed and they made that, in my opinion, not worth trying. So what I will suggest instead, which does rely on this mislabeling, is it's totally legal and it's morally justifiable. Whenever you buy meat from the grocery store, go home, weigh it on a digital scale, and take a picture of the results. It is my understanding that many of these labels can be way off, like 20% off. So you call the grocery store or the meat processor, there's probably a phone number on the back of it. and you're likely to get a refund on your entire meat purchase for that item. So I bet there is a point at which this action can reach critical mass where enough people do it, and grocery stores will be less laissez-faire with their measurements.
Are you doing that every time you purchase meat and bring it home?
I am not. So I
Okay.
have a sponsorship with Porter Road, and they're like my only meat supplier at this point. So I'm fine with what they give me. I think it's really great stuff. I'm about to cook like a 16-ounce ribeye, Berbere crusted, cooked sous vide yesterday, ready to sear it off as soon as this show is over. This is not a paid ad, but by the time this airs, the Memorial Day sale might still be running, and that's 15% off. And it does stack with the coupon code 15SHACK for an extra 15% off. So how about that for a free promo?
There you go. Now that'll distract people from you being a shill for Kroger.
Yeah. Yeah. A double shill. And now I can't run an ad on this podcast or else it'll be just too much. So instead, we can just go straight into the second story.
McDonald's has recently announced that they will be shutting down all existing CosMc's locations by June 23rd. The beverage-focused spinoff has been open for less than 2 years and has struggled to maintain locations, opening and closing multiple stores at the beginning of this year. Despite initial enthusiasm from consumers, the concept has not met sales expectations, prompting McDonald's to retire the idea and shift their focus to incorporating elements of the CosMc's menu at select McDonald's locations.
I never saw one of these open up in real life nor online. So I guess I would guess that it's probably a real estate issue. I look at how efficient Dutch Bros are with their tiny little shacks. They sling like coffee, tea, shakes, smoothies, and energy drinks, and they're always right off a busy street in a tiny little building. So if McDonald's can't replicate that, it must be incredibly difficult.
I actually just learned about Dutch Bros maybe a week or two ago. I had somehow never heard of this company. It reminds me a lot of a Maine-based chain that we have called Aroma Joe's. There are other locations in other states, but it is vast majority Maine locations. And it is kind of the same situation, a very tiny little shack. They're all over the place. It's drive-through only. And I think that, places like Aroma Joe's and Dutch Bros have their own sort of like solidified branding, but what we're not seeing, or what we didn't see with CosMc's, is any sort of effort to really like separate themselves from the McDonald's of it all. And I don't know if they thought it was a good idea to lean into the McDonald's of it all, but I think that it definitely wasn't. And I, for one, thought that this was a really lame idea from the start several years ago.
Well, in your notes, I see that you said we may be living in the era of silly little drink, an environment primed for a concept like CosMc's to succeed. But can you name one silly little drink spot that does not hinge entirely on anchoring? Starbucks was a European-style coffee shop, but adjusted for Americans. Sonic is a car hop drive-in of yore, but for contemporary consumers. Boba shops are cutesy and bright and colorful and lean hard on Korean and Japanese culture. And CosMc's is just anchoring itself to McDonald's and nothing else.
Yeah, and that's incredibly lame. I'm not surprised that that didn't succeed. To answer your question, the inherent New Englander in me immediately wanted to respond with Dunkin' Donuts, but Dunkin' Donuts' whole thing is that they're kind of like the everyman coffee. America runs on Dunkin', and construction workers drink our coffee, but so do major athletes and things like that. So they do kind of have their own shtick.
And even Dunkin' is anchored to donuts. They're not even called Dunkin' Donuts anymore and haven't been for years, but you still know them as the donut place where you can pick up a very simple treat.
I think that's another issue with the CosMc's line, is that they had a couple small food options, but having a beverage-based business and only having like 3 things on your menu that people eat compared to like 40 beverages or something like that is a little crazy to me.
Yeah, I did a Google search for CosMc's, hoping to get more information out of it. And I saw one image of a bunch of cars snaking around an overcrowded parking lot, saying that this was the line on opening day. I don't know if that was satire or not because of how ridiculous and how bigly it seems to have failed. And under that was a reel from comedian Tim Dillon saying, "This sounds like Starbucks for people who like to record fights on their cell phones." So I didn't hear anybody like looking upon this with such great promise. And even Sonic and Dunkin' sell drink items with popping bubbles in them. And so the idea of like a popping pear slush just isn't novel enough to anchor CosMc's to, once again, anything other than McDonald's.
I think that McDonald's might see some success incorporating some of these menu items into their existing menu, kind of like the whole McCafe concept. But this kind of just feels like a weak extension of their McCafe concept to me.
Yeah. Well, rest in peace, Cosmix. I'd say you'll be missed, but I never even met you.
Starbucks has made updates to Shift Marketplace, a scheduling tool debuted by the company earlier this year that allows baristas to claim and trade shifts across their districts, resulting in over 500,000 additional shifts filled thus far in Q2, helping to significantly reduce understaffing. Nearly 2/3 of Starbucks baristas now use this platform, which they say has improved scheduling flexibility and overall employee satisfaction.
It does seem like it's all eyes on Starbucks ever since that new fella took over, and it's change after change, and we seem to have reported on at least 3 of them. There's no free water, there's no free bathrooms. I know people are up in arms about the new dress code that they're requiring for their employees, and this is the first one where everybody kind of just gets to be like, "Yay, here's a win," and I don't know, this could be a good moment for the battered Starbucks stock. What would be really interesting to me, well, first of all, did you even know that there were such thing as like shift marketplaces in the world? Because I didn't.
No, I had never heard of something like this, and I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think most people that have worked for a chain like a Starbucks would probably agree with me. I've never worked for Starbucks, but I worked for Dunkin' Donuts from age 14 to 18, and let me tell you, it was not easy to find coverage, even as a child that needed it for, like, school events and stuff. They were not very forgiving about it, um, and having an app that you can just plug into and reach out to not just the people at your home store, but in your entire district sounds like it would be a game changer. I mean, I remember being 15 years old, so I was about an hour away from my house, stuck, terrible storm, couldn't get back in time for my 7 a.m. shift the next morning. And I'm 15 years old, it's late at night, and in order to not get a strike, because there was like a 3-strike system at the store I worked at, I had to call a bunch of my coworkers late at night to try and get my shift covered. Everyone's mad at me, even though I am just a child trying to not get fired from my job. Um, and it's just crazy to me, the hoops that you have to jump through and how there's been so little effort to make it even just a little bit easier for employees. And I think that this would be a game changer. I would love to see it rolled out for other businesses as well.
Well, we talked earlier once again about the trade-off between humanity and efficiency, and I believe this is the first time in the show's history that I've said that something is a fair trade in the efficiency direction, because the humanity of scheduling people at jobs like this is often quoted as one of the worst parts about it. It's bad for the manager because they have to play politics, and it's bad for the employees because they have to be on the good side of the manager. And there's just a bunch of catty environments that brew because of this. And, the ability to not only say, okay, I want to shift my shift to a different time, but also you are now able to say something like, okay, I want to go to this location that's like a half a mile in the other direction just because I need a few more hours. And you wouldn't be able to do that because you don't know the manager at that location. But now it's all digital and efficient, and the human element has been removed from it. And in this case, I think that's a good thing where everybody wins.
Yeah, and I think, I am mostly referring to it under the context of like needing to get coverage. But this is also incredible for people who might need a little bit of extra cash and, their store location is not as busy as several others nearby. In my experience, like I said, working for Dunkin' Donuts, people did get moved around from locations a little bit, but it was very much a thing where you would just like have your manager call you and be like, can you work 2 towns over this next Thursday? And you would just be like, okay, I guess. And now you don't have to go through any of all that. And like you said before about things maybe getting catty, playing politics with employees, if you have a bad manager that you feel like maybe is not scheduling you appropriately for personal reasons, you can just reach out to a different place, work a few shifts there, and maybe find that you like it better and can get transferred.
I think the only speculative element of this story is I wonder if Starbucks will eventually be able to license this system out to other establishments, because then this could be their big moment, like how Amazon makes most of their money, not from Amazon.com, but from AWS, Amazon Web Services, cloud-based stuff. Like, what if Starbucks starts licensing this out and it becomes their big money maker and they don't really have to rely on the coffee so much? Then we might get our free water back.
There we go. Net positive for everybody. All right, I have a couple interesting new products for you this week. I have KOS Hydration and Protein Drink Mix, Dr. Glitter Nutrient Crystals, and Melly Quinoa Beer.
Not much to say about the protein hydration drink mix because we've covered everything that there is to say about protein at this point on the show. I did hear a little giggle in your voice when you talked about the glitter nutrient crystals, but we'll get back to that right now. I think the Melly Quinoa beer is something that gluten-free beer lovers are likely to be the target market for and rejoice in its invention, but I am surprised that it doesn't get its own name, like how rice wine gets called sake and honey wine gets to be called mead. Why is not there a special name for quinoa beer?
To me, I think that almost is reflective of the whole like vegetarian chicken situation in terms of like you're just trying to let people know this is what it's supposed to evoke when you consume it. I think we'd have to come up with a whole new name for a quinoa beer. Do you have any suggestions?
No, it worked for like Leinenkugel sells summer shandy, and that's beer and lemonade, and it allows them to separate themselves in the market and stand out. And so for you to say, it's not quinoa beer, it's not lesser beer with a very difficult to pronounce element right there in the name. It's whatever you want to call it. I hope that they don't call it Melly because then it's a trademark name that nobody else gets to use. But, by now I would have expected something different to be on the label.
I have heard that it is good though. It's supposed to be kind of like a blonde ale sort of beer, kind of sweet from the quinoa, which sounds interesting to me. I don't know if I would want my beer to be sweet at all. But it sounds like a good option if you're gluten free. I will say it is like $20 for a 4-pack though.
Oh, chihuahua. Now, on to Dr. Glitter. I think, sorry to say it, it's very smart. How could I hate it? In earnest. Of course, on its face, it sounds very stupid, but gummy vitamins and protein Cheetos and melatonin hot chocolate suggest that supplements often need an amount of stupidity. If we were logical creatures who could just go, yes, a balanced diet, of course, then we wouldn't need supplements to begin with.
I think you're totally right. I just can't get over like the bonkers concept of like nutritional glitter. I mean, if this had been around a couple months ago when the glitter pickles, the glickles were really big, I think that this would have been perfect. Get a little extra nutrients in there. I can see this having like a fun little social media moment. I certainly don't see nutritional glitter taking off in the way that like gummy vitamins have though.
I absolutely could see it taking off. Not only does this help young people who don't want to feel like they're old and decaying by chugging, powders. I know a lot of people don't feel good about drinking Metamucil because it's a powder, and like adding powders to your food seems a little geriatric at times. But, if it's young and flirty, cutesy food glitter, then it also has a built-in social media promo with the health food girlies because they get to post comment bait when then they eventually get to share, I'm sure, an affiliate link in response to, wait, was that red glitter that she put on her fruit platter?
That's true. I can definitely see it kind of taking off in that social media sense for sure. The thing that I find interesting too is that I saw it described as like affordable because they're under $20, but there's like 12 servings in each box, and I can't imagine paying $20 for a bottle of vitamins that has 12 pills in it.
Well, that's what I would say about the iron fish that a lot of people put in their soups and stews. Have you seen that? It's like a little cast iron fish that you put in your food so that it releases some iron into your food as you cook.
No, but that makes sense.
Yeah, people who are low in iron and trying to increase their intake, I think they're willing to pay a premium for the ability to get that iron up.
Well, coming from an anemic gal myself, if the nutrient glitter doesn't give me gross metallic iron burps, then I'm down for it.
I think this is going to be a big winner. Well, somebody could swoop in and just make it from a bigger company who's not a startup, but the idea itself could be a big winner. And something shifted within me last week or this weekend when I was talking to somebody who's like, oh yeah, everything is made for you. You're a millennial in your late mid 30s. Like everything for the next 8 to 12 years is going to be for you. Like all of the Disney remakes of Lilo and Stitch, the movies that we grew up with, and like all of the amusement parks and all of the media and all of the Andor and Star Wars, but bureaucratic, like everything is going to be for your age group for a while. And you might as well soak it in now because afterwards it's all going to be for Gen Z, and you're probably not going to like it. So I'm going to soak it in. All the yuppie products, all of the medicinal glitter. I'm going to bask in it for a while I can.
I'm just happy that we have like evidence here of you saying that you think that the nutritional glitter is a product made for you.
Who's surprised?
Maybe that'll be in your next video.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the meantime, we will see you all next week for more news and more hot, glittery takes.
Bye, guys.
Eater's Digest is published every Friday on YouTube, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. You can also get a text-based version delivered to your email every Friday at patreon.com/shack.